was such a dramatic exit. Hello, welcome back to another episode of our Hogwarts Legacy uniform inspired Hogwarts Legacy inspired uniform series. Okay. I'm actually wearing a Harry Potter shirt, so my head is swimming with ideas. My original plan for this was to do a double circle skirt. I'm not very good at math, and I don't want to do a mock-up, and I don't want to ruin the fabric that I have. And I've never made a double circle skirt from those like patterns where you're like calculating your shape, like your such a dramatic exit, and I feel like this is not the time to be trying something new on fabric that is important. So I really want to play it safe and make something that I know is going to look good. I know it's going to be wearable. I know it's going to be, you know, turn out. And then I put on the skirt that I'm wearing today. This is the Simplicity 8462. It's like a 1940s vintage suit. So here's the fabric that I'm using. I did mention this in my original intro that I filmed, but it actually, I thought that I was going to post this video after the ones that come next in the series, but turns out I changed my mind and I want to post this one first. So I didn't want to give you spoilers. So voiceover me is telling you what fabric this is. This is the Minerva Core Range polyester suiting in the color gold. It's the most perfect Hufflepuff color. It's really nice. It has a really nice like suiting weight, obviously, because it's suiting fabric. So it's perfect for this, and it's gonna come out really beautiful with this skirt. I also mentioned, I was just watching it back on my intro, that this has no I was saying that I wanted to add pockets and that this has no side seams. It has like a weird front seam, but actually I went back and looked at the pattern, at the instructions, and I was wrong. I actually have made this wrong twice in my life. So I don't know how I did that, but I'm making it, I'm still hacking it. I'm still not doing it correctly, but the original version has a has two side seams, no front and no back seams, and obviously there's no pockets, and the zipper is, there's a lapped zipper at the side with a little hook and eye at the waistband. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to cut out one of these pieces perfectly as it is, so one of the full panels, and that's going to be my front panel, and then the back panel I'm going to cut in two, and that way I'm going to add my zipper to the back as well as a button instead of a hook and eye, and then I'm going to do the side seams as well and add pockets. Obviously this pattern piece is quite big, as you can tell, and it's bigger than the width of my fabric, and so I'm just having a little dance party here apparently. My original idea was to cut this on the fold, but I actually found that I don't remember why I didn't do it, but I don't know why, but I didn't want to do that. So what I did was I ended up cutting a panel for the front that was the length of the skirt and the width of the whole fabric. And then I laid that out on the floor, and using the selvages as a guide, I made sure that I was on grain and pinned and cut that piece on a single layer, so that I would have one front piece that was complete and I didn't have to patch it and stuff. I also used the leftovers for binding for bias tape, so nothing went to waste. So here I am cutting out my pockets. I'm doing, I fold over the fabric twice so that I can cut all four pieces in one go. And you'll notice that my pattern piece is straight at the top and has like kind of a square shape at the top, and then at the bottom is rounded. And that is because I usually stitch my pockets into the waistband. A lot of times Victorians, they would actually use like twill tape or cotton or any kind of cotton tape to attach the pocket to the waistband. This way the weight would be better distributed of whatever you put in your pockets. And that meant that ladies wearing skirts or dresses with pockets wouldn't have to worry about their pockets changing the way the skirt draped or the way the skirt just moved and flowed and stuff. For the back panels, I laid my skirt piece folded on the fabric, and I lined up the kind of side edges, the side straight. Yeah, like what would be the side seams. I lined that up with the fold. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pin that down, and then I'm gonna use my ruler to add some seam allowance to that straight line and cut that out with extra seam allowance so that I can have a center back seam and turn a piece that is supposed to be cut, you know, on a single layer that is supposed to be a whole panel, turn that into two. And before we go any further, I'm gonna run my waistbands and the panels of the skirt through the serger so that I don't have to keep stopping to serge later. I don't know, sometimes I do it this way, sometimes I do it as I go along. It really depends on the garment. But for this one, for some reason, I wanted to do it this way. So I finished all of the edges of, you know, the pockets of the waistbands and the skirts. I did pretty much everything except the hem of the skirt because I knew that it's obviously cut on the bias. So the skirt is going to drop and I'm going to have to trim it. So not hemming it, but like finishing it on the serger now would be a waste of time. So I didn't do that, but everything else I did do. Next, it's time to set in the pockets into the skirt. This method is the same as any other pocket method. You attach or pin your pockets to the skirt panels, right sides together. So you're going to pin one to each back panel in this case, and I'm one to each, or like two to the front panel. And I line the straight edge that has like the little dent, and then that sort of goes into the rounded edge. That's the side that goes against like flush with that's the side I'm lining up with the side edges, sorry. So this is the point at which you realize that when you are making your redacted, you pretty much almost ran out of thread. I was using a very nice match for this yellow, and then I ran out of that one, and then I started using this one, which isn't as good of a match. It's okay, but it's a bit lighter than the fabric, but I only have this little bit left. I don't think that's enough for my skirt. Oh my god, my hair looks so silly. Okay, so if I want to go to the store, I need to go and fix my hair. So I'm gonna go ahead and run to the store and get some and I also want to get some beads for another project that I'm working on. I might have to take the car because it's supposed to be like 39 degrees Celsius today, which is very hot. Hey Siri, what is 39 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
39 degrees Celsius is 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit.
I did not dye at the store, but I did get my thread and some beads for those projects. I also decided at this point was a great time to cut my interfacing for the waistband. This is one waistband piece, so you fold the waistband on itself and it's like a self-facing. And I ended up piecing together some interfacing to cover the whole thing, just because I have these pieces, wouldn't use them for anything else, and it works out fine. So. So with my bobbin full, I went ahead and stitched my pocket to my skirt panels. Then I pressed all of the seam allowances toward the side of the pocket, and now I'm just understitching that. I really like adding understitching here. I feel like it really helps keep the pocket on the inside really nicely, and it just gives you a much nicer finish. Plus, if you're a beginner or a beginner to understitching in general, this is a really great place to practice because it's a very easy seam to understitch. And then I press those pockets to their correct place and make sure that my understitching is really nice in place and like nice and crisp. There's no like bunching or kind of wobbliness, and this just helps make for a nicer finished garment. Then I pin my pockets to each other, so I'm gonna pin the front to the back of the skirt, and you also pin around the pocket, not just the side seams. So imagine if you're putting a skirt together and you were doing the side seams at this point, you also do the pockets. And I do everything except the very top edge. You can do that, but I'm gonna stitch that into the waistband anyway, so I feel like it's a bit of a waste of time. So I just generally don't usually stitch that seam. I just start at the side of the pocket and then go down and around, and then down the pivot at the seam where the seams meet, and then go down the skirt. Also, it's very important to match the seams of the pocket so that you have a really nice crisp finish and it's nice and perfect. So just a little tip, even if you're not going to be stitching the top of edge of the skirt of the pocket yet, so what you're going to be stitching into the waistband, I still like to put a pin in there just to make sure that those those seam allowances and seams are matching up perfectly. So you can see here in this footage better what I'm doing. I I back stitch right at the top of the pocket, then go around and around. Careful at the rounded edge because your fabric can get a bit slippery here, but practice makes perfect. And then I stitch carefully up into where the seam is, and then I turn this or pivot here with the needle into the fabric and the foot lifted, and then I just stitch down the length of the skirt. You could stitch up a little bit if you wanted your pocket opening to be smaller, but once you've stitched on both sides, you can go ahead and press your seams. You can press them open, press them to one side, whatever you prefer. And yeah, this is in my opinion, a really good pocket finish. It's a good way to have pockets that aren't super visible, that don't distort your skirts, that don't, you don't have to worry about your drape. You don't have to worry about like all of this structure. I've done this on a lot of different skirts, on a lot of dresses, on lots of different kinds of fabrics, and I've not really had any problems to this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that hot iron while I'm here and press my waistband. I'm pressing it in half first, and then I'm gonna go ahead and press up one of the long edges, doesn't matter which because they're both the same. So I'm just gonna pick one and press that up, press the seam allowance up on that side. And this is just something that's gonna make it easier for me to stitch it down to the waistband, like the facing. Later you'll see when I'll point it out later, but yeah, I just like to do it here like when I have the iron out, because it makes it so much easier later, and it's just a nice little touch. It has to be done, so why not now? As I mentioned before, this pattern uses a lapped zipper, and I do really like that, and I think it's a method I should bring into more skirts in my life in general, but it's not something that I usually do, so I had to refresh my memory on how the pattern wants me to do it and like how much the seam allowances were, because it does make it like those, you need a millimeter here and a millimeter there, but that's what kind of gives you space to do a lap zipper. So I did have to consult the pattern just to make sure that I had the numbers right, that I remembered them correctly. But first, I had to find, I think this is when I realized that the skirt, I'd been doing it wrong all those times that I'd done it before. But yeah, figure out how to do as a lap zipper and then do a lap zipper basically. That basically starts with turning in your seam allowance by however much the pattern tells you on one side. And that usually is going to be the bit that like laps, I guess. And then, so I'm just double checking with my seam gauge and, pressing that. And then on the other side of your, the other opening, I guess, you're pressing the other amount. So it'll be two different amounts. Like one of them will be the amount of seam allowance and the other side will be like 1.3 if your seam allowance is 1.5. I think that's what it is in this pattern for sure. But anyway, I'm not the person to teach you how to do lap zippers because I'm not very familiar with them, and also this pattern does them really weird. So we're just going to move on to the next step. which is going to be attaching our waistband. Now I'm going to do one side sort of flush with the zipper. Not actually flush, but like 1.5. So I'm going to leave the seam allowance out. And then I'm going to just pin the waistband to the skirt. Making sure that my pockets are facing the front panel. So you want to attach the pockets to the front panel basically. Make sure your seams are matching, and you can pin that first and then pin the waistband. I think that's a little bit easier. And you will have some excess waistband at the other end. And that is for then doing the hook and eye. Once I had my waistband stitched in place, I went ahead and pressed all of that seam allowance into the waistband. You can trim this if you like. I don't know why I didn't, but I guess it didn't make that much of a difference. But I am going to trim my zipper in a little bit. Now with the right sides together, we're going to fold our waistband in half again. And we're going to pin that. And having had our seam allowance turned over on the facing side just makes this a little bit easier because you don't have to do it now. It's harder to do it when it's attached to the skirt. So yeah, as you can see, I have a little bit of excess here along one of the sides of the zipper. And now we're just going to stitch this short edge together. And this just makes that turning look way nicer and way crisper. So we're going to do that on both sides and then trim that seam allowance and clip the corner. And then once I turned out the waistband to the right side, I'm just going to give that a really nice press again and make sure everything is going where it needs to go and that it's laying nice and flat so that my hand sewing of the waistband facing goes a lot smoother. Oh, but before I forget, I'm actually going to stitch my tag on the facing side first while it's still open. And then using matching thread, I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch the whole waistband closed. So essentially I'm stitching the facing to the seam allowance on the inside. I also go ahead and stitch the underside, or like the bit that's left over, the extension I guess of the waistband, that I also stitched that closed. Next I marked where I wanted my buttonhole to go. I don't want to do a hook and eye, I prefer buttons. And also I felt I had like one button left from this whole outfit that I'm planning to use on the other pieces, so I thought it would be perfect for the skirt. So yeah, just went ahead and made that really quickly on my sewing machine. Then I used some offcuts to make some bias tape. So I'm just marking out some 5 centimeter lines, or like lines that are 5 centimeters apart on the 45-degree angle of the fabric. And this is the stretchiest part of the fabric called the bias. You've probably heard of it. And that will just mean that the tape is, these pieces are going to be stretchy. And that means that they're going to be really good to make the hem, because they will stretch out with the roundness of the skirt, but also they also kind of like stretch down to accommodate the ease. So this is a really good method for hemming big skirts and things that have a lot of ease in them. Once I had cut all of my strips down, I actually attached them to each other on an angle, and this just means that the end result is straighter. And yeah, you can see on the side I already made some, but I wanted to make more, not only because I want to accommodate obviously the fullness of this skirt specifically, but I'm also making other things for this project that I can see myself using bias tape for, or that I'm planning on using bias tape for. So I'm gonna go ahead and make more just in case, because I know I'm going to end up using, if not all of it, then the vast majority. I left my skirt to hang overnight so that the skirt, like the hem, could drop, and that just means that yeah, the bits that are on the bias are gonna drop more than the others and whatever. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and give that a little trim, and then I'm going to attach my bias tape to the hem with right sides together and stitch that down by machine. Then I'm going to press that to the wrong side and then hand stitch it down. I like to do this so that you have a really nice invisible finish. And yeah, spent a couple hours doing that in front of the TV on the sofa. But as you can tell, this video still not done. So let's see what happened there. So I finished the skirt and tried it on, and for one, it's a little bit tight. I need to move the button over because I can get the button to close, but then it kind of makes this all bunched up because it's too tight. So I'm going to move the button over to the very edge here of the skirt. There will be a little gap, but it'll be okay. That's the beauty of making your own clothes, is you can like mend them and stuff, and that's what I really like about putting a button at the top, is that you can kind of have that little wiggle room, so that's nice. That's a really relatively easy, not very annoying fix. However, the not so easy, a little bit more annoying fix is that I actually didn't try on the skirt, and this is the back. So this is the back of the skirt and this is the front. So the front did drop a lot more than I thought it had, and I should have tried it on. Yeah, so now we have to fix it. And instead of doing my usual of leaving it and then coming back to it one day and then basically never coming back to it, I'm actually gonna get on with it and do it now before it is too late. No, because I actually really want this to be super perfect and beautiful. I'm going to unpick all of my nice hand stitches. And then I'm also going to unpick my bias. I'm gonna even out the hem and then I'm gonna redo it. I'd rather it take a little bit longer now, but then it be nice and perfect. So there we go. I had to unpick all of that nice work, and now I'm going to use the method that I actually am using now. So this was the first time I ever did a bias hem. And for some reason, I hadn't done a circle skirt in a while when I did this, and I guess I just underestimated how much effort I had to put into the evening as in evening out of the hem, not like the night time. So yeah, I used the method that I showed you in my Minerva video, so I am going to leave that linked so that you can watch it if you want to watch it in more detail. But yeah, so I went ahead and fixed that. Very annoying. And by the time I had unpicked, evened out the hem, and got back to stitching it, I was pretty fed up with the skirt, and I thought, you know what, why don't we do some top stitching and forget the invisible finish? So what I did was I stitched the bias with right sides together to the skirt as I did before. But then what I did was I stitched the top bit, which is further from the hem, by machine, so which would be visible. And I thought, you know what, why don't I lean into this top stitched look? And I actually went ahead and top stitched at the very edge of the hem as well. And then that way on my bias is super secure, obviously, but also on the outside I have 2 lines of top stitching at the bottom of the skirt, which looks like a decoration now, instead of just I was too lazy to re-sew a full circle skirt hem by hand again. Plus, as this is obviously supposed to be the uniform of a school, I feel like top stitching would be a much quicker way to finish something, and it's like more utilitarian, and I kind of like that idea as well. Okay, so let's talk about this skirt. I have some mixed feelings about it. I need my glasses to read my notes, so sorry about the glare. So the pockets, as you could tell on this last bit of footage that I just showed you, are a bit more visible on the skirt than I would have liked them to be. I actually think that this is down to the fit more than anything else. I don't think it's really the fabric or the pocket pattern, because I've used the same pocket pattern for a very big variety of skirts and dresses, and I've not had this issue before. It's also the first time where I could tell that there's gaping on the pockets. So that tells me that it's more about the fit than anything else. I actually made this skirt for the first time probably like a couple of years ago, and I have since gained a little bit of weight, which is totally fine, not a problem. But I did forget to add that or to consider that while I was making this. The skirt that I was wearing in the beginning of this video is the same pattern, but it's actually in the Minerva suiting fabric, which is stretchy. It's like a woven fabric, a woven suiting, which is stretchy. So it actually accommodates for weight fluctuations much better than this one, because this one does not have any stretch in it, apart from obviously on the bias. Even though I have gained weight, that skirt still fits me very well because the fabric is stretchy, which this fabric didn't have, and I forgot to factor that in. That's as simple as that. That meant that the overall fit isn't as good as on that skirt. So what I'm trying to say is that the pocket opening gapes due to that tightness, to the fact that I forgot to factor in my weight gain. There's also some weird bunching at the waist. I think you could see that quite clearly in the footage. There's also a little gap at the top of the zipper, and that I think is a little bit obvious when I turn around, but then you have the lapped zipper and you have the buttons, so I think it's not like a huge deal. It's just like there. So those are the things that I have more negative feelings towards, or like I'm not as happy about. The things that I am really pleased about are mostly the fabric. So this fabric is really, really good to work with. Even though it's 100% polyester, it behaves really nicely, it sews really nicely, and it's actually really versatile for a suiting fabric. I actually have used it in more structured garments, which you will see soon. This fabric worked amazing with those things, but it also has a really lovely drape on this skirt. I think you can tell when I twirl and stuff that it has a really, really nice drape. When I twirl, it swishes really nicely. So I think this is a really nice, versatile fabric. I also think this would make a really lovely dress to wear to work or something, like, because it has that kind of suiting fabric, which like reads very professional. But I am getting off topic here. So it does wash really well as well. It takes a little bit more work to press than a cotton, for example, or even a poly cotton. That is the nature of polyester, or this specific weave of polyester, because you get some polyesters that are easier to press. This one isn't super easy to press. You have to, use your steam and press and then let it cool in that shape a little bit. It does have that kind of factor in it, just so you know. Personally, I don't think that's a huge con for me, because that then means that when I'm wearing it, it doesn't crease that easily. And I think that's more important, really, because I'm going to spend more time wearing this skirt than I have spent making it. So the amount of times that I'm going to, sit in a car or sit at the desk and not have to worry about it creasing is going to like far outstretch the amount of time I spent like trying to press a seam, which wasn't that bad because I do have quite a lot of experience. But I think if you're a newbie to sewing, then this might be a bit annoying for you. It's all about perspective, I guess, because cottons are really easy to work with. They press really nicely, but then you wear them for 2 seconds or you breathe on them and they crease. So, and in the spirit of full disclosure, I did get this fabric for free from Minerva.com as part of the Brand Ambassador program. I did get this fabric for free as part of that in exchange to post on their website, which I have done. So if you go and follow me on their website, there's like a social media aspect to it, which is really fun. And if you go and follow me on there, you can actually see all of the pieces that I made for this for this cosplay, which I haven't posted like a full reveal yet because I want to wait until I post all these videos, but I have posted every single garment that I have made from this fabric so far. And so yeah, if you want a sneak peek of what's coming in the future, I have linked that below. But ironically, I did also put this fabric in my wish list about 3 months before I became a brand ambassador. So when they asked me if I would like to work with it. I was like, yeah. I would really appreciate it if you do follow me on there if you have an account. If not, you can make one for free. It's really easy. And also you can follow me on the other things. They're all linked below. The one that is more, that I would recommend, I guess, if you only follow me on one place, is to follow me on Instagram, because it is where I post more regular. But also you can just subscribe to my channel and then you will also be notified of new videos. It also really helped my channel grow, so that would be really appreciated. Oh, and obviously also like this video, and then hopefully YouTube will show it to other people too, so that would also really help me out. I am really excited to carry on with showing you how this cosplay came along. I am hoping to wear it to a con soon, but I'm not sure. I haven't bought tickets yet. So now that we've done all that admin, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!